But can I acknowledge the traditional owners, the Ngunnawal people, and thank them for their leadership. And we should be proud as a nation to have one of the longest living cultures in the world. Very proud of a rich culture that emanated from this great land. Can I acknowledge that the Department Secretary and to each and every one of you as part of agriculture, whether it be at the farm gate, through the supply chain, or in services supporting agriculture. We are a $58 billion industry, and we should be proud of that. And I look back over the last 12 months, and I stood here before addressing this gathering. I would not have thought I would have faced the challenges that I did over the previous 12 months, but they've been challenges that have forged successes. Even if you look at the live trade of sheep, a month after I spoke here last year, we saw that horrible footage of the Awassi. But from that, we've reset an industry, a proud industry that's important to Western Australia, in a methodical, sensible and calm way. There's still some more work to do, but from science predicated from McCarthy, looking at our own regulator through Moss, but also simple, pragmatic, common sense reforms, not from any reports, not from scientists, just from people on the ground, around putting independent observers on our boats to make sure there's truth and proof on those boats to give every Australian confidence in what we do, that the outliers within the industry are removed, and those that do the good work are rewarded, a small price to pay. And I've also tasked the department recently to make sure that now we endeavour to have third-party appointments of vets. Previously, the vets were appointed by the export companies. To add another layer of transparency, I want to make sure that I can give comfort to each Australian that every process, when we send an animal overseas, has the highest level of transparency. So over the coming couple of months, that process will all be put in place. So practical solutions to some of the challenges we face in agriculture, and they're not new. Agriculture's faced many challenges, and one thing that we as a sector should always be proud of is the fact that we always find practical solutions, even within the Murray-Darling Basin. Let me say, 12 months ago, we didn't have agreement on the sustainable diversion limits, the Northern Basin Review, or the 450 gigalitre upwater. But as we stand here today, for the first time in this nation's history, we have agreement from all basin states in the Commonwealth in the management of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, the biggest environmental program in our nation's history. And while fringe dwellers on the side want to try and tear it apart, let me tell you, the reality is the politics is over. The legislation's passed. It's time to implement. And while we've seen tragedies like the fish kill and Menindee, and as someone that grew up in Chinchilla and used to fish every second weekend on the Condamine River, it's a tragic event, one that I witnessed as a boy. But these aren't new events. The reality is we've had over 600 of these events in New South Wales alone over the last 20 years. And let me brace you all, these will happen again. That is the way of nature. And let me say, those water managers had to make a decision about the use of that water, the use of the water that would evaporate. Year 8, ag science will tell you that if you leave water out in the hot sun for too long, it'll evaporate. So those water managers had to make an informed decision, and they did. And out of that informed decision came the biggest Murray-Darling cod spawning event in our nation's history. Something that's been glossed over, something that hasn't been put into the debate, something that those water managers had to make a decision on and made it on informed science at the time. Now, we can always do things better, and that's why we've asked Professor Robert Verdecy to go and have a look at how we can manage the water system better. But in essence, the Murray-Darling Basin Plan is settled. It's time now for leadership over politics. And I'm glad to say that this time 12 months ago we didn't have that, but we had it because I reached out to Tony Burke and we took away the name calling and the vitriol and the politics, and we were able to settle the Northern Basin Review and the sustainable diversion limits, and with the leadership of the states, finalise a neutrality test on the 450 upwater. 2 million Australians that live up and down the Basin Plan now have certainty because of leadership, not politics. And that's what each and every one of you want from your government. They want leadership, not politics. So we still face those challenges that have hurt so many communities, however, with drought and in the northwest of Queensland flood. I'm proud to say we're going to invest nearly $7 billion in supporting not only the drought-affected communities, but also those flood-affected communities in northwest. I've never seen the vision that I could imagine, having flown up there and the water, an inland ocean with cattle stranded in the middle of it, and pulling up, flying into a man's property with his young son. And I asked him how he was going. He said, "Mate, I've lost it all. Every beast I've lost." But he said, "There's some poor bugger worse off than me." To me, that said it all. That we in agriculture, but we Australians, should be proud of how we face adversity. How we face adversity and rise to the challenge. But we can't continue to talk about those things that challenge us. We've got to be positive. Positive about our future. Positive about bringing our young people home. We've had a generation drained out of regional rural Australia and out of agriculture over the last 20, 30, 40 years. We have to change that by resetting our language. We'll continue to face the challenges of drought and flood, but it's how we face up to them and how we prepare for them. And that's why we look to you, the leaders. It's important that we reset that narrative because agriculture is sexy again. There's a quid to be made in agriculture and our young people need to know that. I was told as a young boy I couldn't come back to the land. There wasn't a future in it. Well, let me tell you there is. 42 years on there is. But we have to propagate that with how we talk about it. About bringing those young people back, whether it be at the farm gate or through the whole chain. The new jobs that are in agriculture, not just the traditional pick and shovel jobs, but the new jobs in science and technology, the cutting edge that we as agricultural industry have always embraced ahead of everyone else because we've had to. And that's something we should be proud of. But we have to set that environment now as leaders, not just me as the minister, but each and every one of us. It's our legacy, not my legacy, it's ours. So it's beholden on each and every one of us to reset the narrative. And today, I want to reset that narrative, particularly around our research and development. I'm proud of what our research and development corporations have done. We've taken the agricultural industry from around a $34 billion industry to a $60 billion industry in 8 years. That's an amazing accomplishment, one that we should be profoundly proud of because we've entrusted our human capital, the bright and best in the world, and they are the bright and best in the world, entrusted them, given them an environment to help you, give you, the agricultural sector, the tools of the 21st century. But I ask the question, are we fit for the future? The world's evolving and we have to evolve ahead of it. We're a nation of 25 million people. We produce enough food for 75. If we don't embrace the world, if we don't embrace our markets and be ahead of our markets, then we'll get left behind. And we lose our regional communities that support our agricultural sector. So I tasked EY to go and review our innovation systems here in this country. Over 12,000 interviews, 550 stakeholders. 80% of those that were interviewed were reformists. They were proud of what we've done, but they see we can go further. So what I want to do is challenge the leaders now to lead to the next level. My responsibility is to take away the shackles of government around you, and to be prepared to take some risks, some calculated risks. But to also ensure that we take the agricultural sector with us in extension, and making sure that we do that at a regional level, in putting those services out there, lo and behold, where they're to be delivered to the people that want to use them. In the old days, they called that common sense. Well, let me tell you, we're going to bring that back. We're going to start to make sure that our innovation systems connect, but also, more importantly, collaborate with one another, and we coordinate. It's important that we continue to attract even more financial capital. We've got more researchers in our innovation systems than the Netherlands and the United States, yet we're number 20 in the world. Number 20. Netherlands are number 2 and the United States are number 6. And we've got brighter people, with all due respect to those living in the Netherlands and the United States, than anywhere else in the world. So how do I empower them? How do I empower them to take it to a new level and encourage the next generation of scientists to go into agriculture? That's the challenge that we need to reset as a nation, as an industry. So I acknowledge there'll be some challenges for those that currently lead our research development corporations. But this is your time to leave a legacy. This isn't the Bible, but it's, in many respects, a guide to how we can come together and to challenge the status quo to take us to number 1. We're Australians. There is no way in the world we should not be number 1. And my job is to put the environment around you to do that. So over the coming couple of weeks, I'll be challenging those leaders to come together, to use this report as a roadmap as to how we can deliver this. Not by 2050. 2050 is far too long. I'm an impatient sort of guy. We should be challenging ourselves to have this implemented by 2030. We should be leading the world by 2030 in research and innovation. We should back ourselves. We back ourselves. We show the pride and passion that we do at home, in our businesses, in the industry that we represent, then we will do that. And we'll start to attract the next generation of young people into agriculture. So let me say to you, my legacy to you is to put that environment around it. Your legacy is to get behind it. So to each and every one of you, can I thank you for the support, for your hard work on behalf of a grateful nation. We're a big industry, $58 billion, $47 billion worth of exports. Things are being tough, but it's not our first rodeo and it won't be our last. It will rain, and when it does rain, we're going to make a quid. And we're going to be the envy of this nation, because what we do and how we do it in producing the most environmentally and ethically sustainable food and fibre should never be forgotten by anybody. And it's our job to be loud and proud and to promote it. So thank you for having me, and have a great conference.